Utah commissioners, as well as Navajo Division of Transportation and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. For the record, Mr. Tai, could you do the roll call, please?
The chair, members of RDC, this is roll call for Resource and Development Committee leadership meeting with San Juan County, Utah Commissioners, Division of Transportation and Bureau of Indian Affairs for Friday, February 11th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Roll call. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez is present.
Rick Nez is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Good morning, Chairman Key Allen is present. Thank you.
Key Allen Begay Jr. is present. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Good morning. I'm present.
Herman M. Daniels present. Honorable Mark A. Freeland.
Morning, Freeland's present.
Mark A. Freeland is present. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr.
Present.
Wilson C. Stewart Jr. is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Chair, you have 5 members available, but you don't need a quorum for this leadership meeting. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahe. We're on invocation on the agenda. I would like to ask Mr. Kenneth Maryboy and Hutchinson, if you please do the invocation.
Thank you. Ze shtra tigeniont a panlong con ya de tsa ado con a petition pangit a nikis ndahallage nikis ado hunen tlado na hanten adolis naso hunt ina be otas ben hanawins adolis ko di belas a kodon hawins Benigay kolong kung ashkan ashkan ya ade tado kung benha ahadanizi chidigeniot ado in the takong konlong the kong in the each day. But jet and ledo kong hipejo in the takong nikisa as nikizaya dan lakong. And the hash connect kong kwabakagi or chedidi nislik and the kong. Yat ko konti genta holong konti ben hadison patole si ko bandit in jono gon has in zaton jono go telia dole ti ben hadison patole sidigeniot digito pa in leni kon kon sorot itozen ben ya non sadole ti ko na an konige asa bijipe kon ni itozen benana sidole na shades in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Mary Boy. But on Hudson and Kodoshin ben Shani clean or late and can case done his JB or longer. Introductions. Let's start with honorable members of RDC, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Chairman, good morning, RDC member. Ado kudo Daisno Sangi, Ado kudo Sohadesatiki, we appreciate that. Kudo Stage Hanan in Anslung Kian Eda Suja, Anida Suchiara, Dishin Eda Sunale. Ado 5 chapters, Kudo representation Niki, Luma on Tachibugab, Salani Kanwat, Noslini, and many farms, Ita Kudo Shananashins. And so, Kudani Jedas, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. And the colleagues, RDC members, and just staff, Herman Daniels Jr. Ado Nanslin gave but Annie. Ado Kentachini, the Sunday, the Sujeho. Ado Dashanaliki, ya Ashkahatzo. Adona that should shake it, what he had leaned to not say the net that should shake. What that mentioned on the radar, not if on was jet to shot to, I think that's a big in a bananas. What that is, they have to say the list. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, good morning. Resource Development Committee members, good morning. Shay Mark Freeland is here. Dosanigi Tutsoni, Slowok Kia Ani, a Bushes Chin, Sandra Kenne, a Dasha Che. Good morning. I represent 8 chapters of the Eastern Agency, Crown Point. Asia Home Chapter, Crown Point Chapter, Hadishki, Vicente, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, Nayaze. Thank you, Chairman.
Honorable Stewart.
Oh, good morning, Shania Chairman. Nez Arundashaya, Vice Chair Walker, Arundashanaika, and all others online, including our staff and other staff as well from San Juan County. Good morning, everybody. In a sexual assault prevention workshop as well, another hour to go on that one. Then we'll be completing on that one. But Shaya Wilson, Steve Stewart Jr. and Shadow Telto that Shadow Aquado Hashtag this morning. Batkadashagi Telto, Begal Cheat, one of the only Jaded out on the 45th agency to represent for the Resource Development Committee. Twitsopni and Shledo Nanish, as a Kachini, Bashichin, Kachini, the Shate, Bitcoin, the Chanela. Again, good morning, everybody. And thank you, Mr. Mary Boy, for the prayer this morning.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Share Rick Nez and Shia Hawasan and Zay Kachini, Bashichin, Senna Business Chado. Kia ani da shinala hotai ya hata Nenshnido has Tonga chapters Panash Nishige ya Hogback San Juan and Hanzad Upper Fruitland Burnham and Newcomb. Welcome everybody. Let's go to RDC staff, Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, Chair, members of RDC, San Juan County, Utah, BIA and the Department of Transportation. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm Kia'ani and Senja Kine. I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona, and I'm the Legislative Advisor for Resource and Development Committee. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Ms. Woody.
Chair, Ms. Woody's on emergency leave today, so she's not available to join us.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Khan. Ms. Siako.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the Resources and Development Committee. Melinda Arviso, Siako Yanshiedo, Sitnajinin Shlonki, Ani Bashichin, Tudichini Dashichedo, Dashchini Dashinella, Legislative Staff Assistant for Speaker Damon in Winter Rock, Arizona. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siako. We also have with us today from BIA Regional Director, Mr. Greg Mahoja.
Good morning, Chairman Nez, Council delegates, members of the RDC. We're here today to provide any assistance we can. My team is going to be available to answer any questions that that are posed or that we can provide responses later. So good morning and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoja. Ms. Curley.
Hi. Yeah, Bennett. Good morning, RDC Chairman, RDC members, everyone on this call. Cheryl Curley, BIA, Navajo Region.
Thank you, Ms. Curley. Mr. Silversmith from NDOT.
Good morning. Yate Bennett, Chair Nez, and honorable members of the Resources and Development Committee, Bureau of Indian Affairs, San Juan County officials, leadership, and all the other partners on the phone. Garrett Silversmith and Shea, Kachini, Shea, Bashashin, Aro Torachini, Dashache, Kanawahni, Dashanala. Thank you, and looking forward to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. Silversmith. From San Juan County Commissioners, Kenneth Maryboy.
Good morning, Jita. Ado all of the honorable committees on this Resources Development Committee, Sitsuido, Sitchedo, Sitado, Sitsiliado, Sitla Ashton Shela. Good morning, Kenneth Murray Boy. Being between the Nan Stone Ashki, Basis Chain, but only the Sitchedo, Kangazo, the Shanala. With that, good morning again.
Mr. Mark McDonald.
Yeah, it's Mac McDonald, San Juan County Administrator. Good morning, everybody. Honorable members, as well as Honorable Council Delegate Daniels. Glad to see you here, as well as our partners, Director Garrett Silversmith, and then Greg Mahoja with the BIA. Appreciate this opportunity to be here and to be listened to be heard of our requests. And so good to see you all.
Thank you. Mr. Willie Gray Eyes. Mr. Gray Eyes. Any commissioners on the call? None. Ms. Khan?
Oh, yeah. Good morning. She Mariana Khan, da she Jenny. Don't and the Shinigi a taught here gleaning, but Ahi Bashish Chin, last chit da she shade, send Jikina da Shanala. I could our son Nishle. I am here to assist and listen in on the call. Thank you very much for making time in your busy lives for this important discussion. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Anybody else on the call that wishes to introduce themselves?
No, Chair.
Yes,
this is Herman
Farley.
This is Herman Farley, Chapter President from Renton Bayside Chapter. Good morning to you all, honorable delegates on the Resource Development Committee, other commissioners, San Juan County commissioners, and all the call-ins. I just want to introduce myself. There's a son of a I see that's another who they got chain that's a chain. But I didn't know.
Welcome, Mr. Farley. Anybody else? Mr. Gray Eyes?
Oh, got it. Norman Kariai Bigay here from Nanizad Chapter President there. Thank you. I'm just listening in, and good morning to all the RDC committee.
Good morning, Satsila. Mr. Begay. We will have our meeting this afternoon at 3 o'clock too with Department of Justice there. Anybody else on the call?
This is TJ Ada with San Juan County Road Superintendent. Good morning, Resources and Development Committee. Appreciate being able to be on the phone with you people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Chairman, this is Thomas Walker.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, good morning, Chairman, though, committee members, though, our staff, Mr. Tahi, Ms. Woody, good morning to you. Though, the offices that are with us, Speaker's Office, Legislative Council, OPVP, and other offices, maybe NDOTs on the call. Other agencies in the states and perhaps the BIAs on the call. I'm not sure who's on the call, just now got dialed in. So this is Thomas Walker. I serve on the Resource Development Committee for the 24th Navajo Nation Council. I represent areas out here, southwest part of the nation, Loop, Talani Lake, Cameron, Coal Mine Canyon, and Bird Springs chapters. had echo ado ashing hinch be katoli bashin put something che and lehna na tsadish gizni dashinal with echo again yeah chinan chinani craig Isanil ado shi hat bandit idol in Dahzi. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Do we have Mr. Filford on the call with us from the Office of the President, Vice President? None? Hakushila. We'll go ahead and get started now. We're on number 2 of the agenda. Purpose of the leadership meeting this morning was requested by San Juan County Commissioners to meet with the Resources and Development Committee, as well as with the Navajo Division of Transportation and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The discussion will be on the quarterly maintenance on all Navajo Nation roads within San Juan County, Utah. Currently, San Juan County, Utah maintains all bus routes on the Navajo Nation, and the remaining non-bus routes are maintained by the Navajo Division of Transportation. San Juan County, Utah is seeking to expand their authority and amend the current intergovernmental agreement, which would allow San Juan County, Utah to maintain all roads on the Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation, though San Juan County, Utah, a Trinity agreement, intergovernment agreement, but the Niniginal source base that Anigishi has edod Nishpanega. Akodi dan Trinity Chin, Das Taki, Chides Hord, Kada de Jacodo, Sahondas Trinity Beniga. So here, number 3 on the agenda, presentation and discussions. Presentation by San Juan County Commissioners on the current intergovernmental agreement and seeking to amend the agreement in order to expand the county's authority in order to maintain all roads on the Navajo Nation. Mr. Kenneth Maryboy, the commissioners, as well as the chief administrator, Mr. McDonald, and others will be doing the presentation. Mr. Maryboy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, sita adoshanat Senigi. Yeah, Godon Hahos Ados Chalia Herman Daniels. A Nhaban Sania Kit Nanikin Naluko. Nikit is Ana, you see, Ayego. Naway Kehwit and then away not Adon away Gosh Teleholia, all the way from Navajo Mountain to Anna. Untitled Chapter in the Accord Art Ego chapters in the San Juan County, Utah. Be Accord Adult Gege Natus on or J. Ado Danaho, Adona Kaito. That the cheetah has come, Isnas, Masto, Gosh, still. Those are the chapters that are being affected. Ado, I'm sure that the committee is probably kind of getting tired of us jumping down, up and down, hollering. It's been a frustrating moment. The last meeting that we had with the Resources Committee, Mr. Chair, you made a directive to come back together and bring something viable before you again. We have been. We've always been. We've been talking to BRA. We've been talking to the NDOT. It seems like we're running out of avenues. During the IGA signing ceremony in Eastern Bus, this is years ago, I would say about 4 or 5, my administrator and the chief road department will probably give you all those dates, but In that time, we agreed upon redoing the bus routes, and from the feds, I know that there's some fundings that came in to maintain the roads on the reservation. Those fundings I don't think we'll ever get back, which is okay. But the bus route, not everybody travels on that. I, for one, am out there every other day. I take a drive, look at the roads and see what's been taken care of. Yeah, I see equipments out there running around, but nobody's blading the road. Doko Navedempia Chati not illness Kadibinina in Atiben Hordnation, which is true. Ado Navajo Inta what our this is. In the meanwhile, not it naturally, but now they get in the go under law. Digi attain the hunter no appenity. I hate all the yards I hate on. We have the equipment back at the yards bent on this again here. We try to keep up and maintain whatever we can. For I guess I'm really frustrated why we don't come to a conclusion. Okay, I have my administrator and my road department here, and all the information that you need, it's there. Again, we've been meeting, we've been talking, we've been communicating. In the meanwhile, our people back home is getting really frustrated. This is Herman Farley, Red Mesa, though. I see community members. Oh, you're the Hashke. I don't know, and they answer go do. They Hashke too. They need a bed night road. It don't know so. The hay. So be got it do ligated into. A company now, we have to have those equipments out there. We have the equipment out there, but they're not doing anything. I can vouch for that, and I'm there out almost every other day. I see the equipment, but on day I think a day later. Every once in a while, they will drop the blade. So in the meanwhile, none that the hundred never started on to than they used to have. Open the head to Josh. Even in ordinary from the Resources Committee. Maybe some kind of a directive can happen. We sent the letter to the President's office. We sent the letter to DOJ elsewhere. Laid out, hey, Paula the Nayan sisters. Akon the 8 of engaged in the Chicago, Washington, Hajopa Inson. Ne, we get the Napa. The 7 chapters, and a star what a baby in a haunty. None on the way is as much a yellow rock point, 8 of our down at that Bet Night Road. I don't set a heart a it's a special. Red Mesa, there's a community called White Mesa. I don't know what do bago never that I car over hats. No, the way than the whole church, no Mexican water. Not the hotel dance. I did came beneath. The question is not up the Zeta has changed because of the road conditions. Ya not under Ebenina Ecuador Nikitato Nico Sinanta and Jonogo Panhido Chinkto Nahabigato Chinkto Benasset Nikibetskis Nikena get Nike Holonigi Bacada dos Chisohe. Date aqua at Oho. No, that's even Nasada, Anki is not all this. Ostana Shahun, I was saying, the North at the snack. I did Oyo. Oyo Tahatas hard or Sotas either. We general. Bench on. Eat out there, eight on his own adolescent. That was not, no Senigi.
Yeah, Mr. Maryboy. Mr. McDonald?
Yes, appreciate that. Appreciate that introduction and everything, Commissioner Maryboy. Some of the history on where we've been with roads in San Juan County. Also like to recognize Honorable Davis Wilfred, who is also in attendance. I'd seen him show his face for just a second. It's good to see him out and about. Anyways, if I may, I'd like to share my screen, kind of go over some details here. You should be able to see a spreadsheet. I had used this as kind of a background to familiarize myself with what we've done in the past here. Prior to 2018, the county maintained all of the roads in the Navajo Nation. Around, to me, our total maintained roads were 6,559.51 miles of roads in San Juan County. That's a lot of roads, and we had the budget around an average of $4.7 million is what we averaged a year in Class B, Class D road funds that we would receive from the state of Utah to maintain those roads. In 2018, we received notice from the Navajo Nation as they had the new charge to become more sovereign. We had received a request from the Navajo Department of Transportation to show validity in right-of-way access on Navajo Nation roads, which we did not have with the Navajo Nation, other than the agreements that the Navajo Nation had provided to us. At that time, the Navajo Nation made the decision to maintain all of the Navajo Nation roads within NDOT themselves. This didn't really affect the BIA roads that San Juan County had been maintaining and have continued to maintain past in present form. We have a separate agreement with BIA on some of the BIA routes that the county continues to maintain. But we lost in miles maintained just for 2,000 roads, about 2,015 miles in roads that we had dropped. And you can see those charts there, the mile maintained. You can see the significant drop after 2018. You see the drop down in 2019, and then we've kind of held steady. In 2020 is when we executed an agreement, IGA, the Intergovernmental Agency agreement with NDOT and the Navajo Nation to take on and begin maintaining some of the bus routes that gave us right-of-way access to maintain just roughly 74.1 miles. And so you can kind of see that reflected in an uptick in our miles maintained, small gradual increase. But we've been maintaining those since 2020, and essentially it gives us right-of-way access to maintain those roads at just a blade standard. So we're not able to bring in any additional gravel other than just we can crown the roads so we can pull the sides of the roads back in, reshape, recrown for proper drainage. But that was what it had given us is just those bus routes, that 74.1 miles. And so we're appreciative of that. And then that was a start. And our hats off and with the assistance with President Nez, he was very helpful in and instrumental with that, as well as our Congressman John Curtis, represents San Juan County, was also instrumental, and the two commissioners, Commissioner Maryboy and Commissioner Gray Eyes, as well as the Honorable Silversmith, Director of NDOT. All of us came together and executed that agreement, and we've been maintaining that agreement and maintaining those roads. But it's also caused a lot of confusion to the public, and that's, I think, for me, the bottom line, and what we have to remember in all of this is we are public servants. We work for and in behalf of the public. So as we're out there maintaining bus routes, or what people establishing the agreement had deemed as bus routes, our maintenance blade operator will be out there maintaining. We receive a lot of comments from the public. Some are, why San Juan County? Why are you here? The Navajo Nation, we're supposed to be maintaining our own roads. You're not supposed to be here. The other comments, and the majority of the comments, are San Juan County, we're glad you're here. We need you to maintain this road as well, and this road over here. And, I have elderly over here and they're sick, and will you please just go over there and maintain that road as well? That's probably the majority of what we hear out there is San Juan County, why can't you maintain the rest of the roads? They would see NDOT come out there and maintain the roads, and they see San Juan County out there maintaining other roads, and then it's just caused confusion of who's maintaining the road. And if it is a route and a road that doesn't get maintained, is left off of the route, that quarter, then they're upset, but they don't know who to be upset with. They don't know whether they'd be upset with NDOT, or be upset with San Juan County. They're just mad. They're mad that their roads aren't being maintained, and it's causing what we see is some problems with just the roads, the degradation of the roads themselves. I want to take you, so as we looked at that, you see the loss of miles that we used to maintain compared to what we maintain now. I want to take you on a journey. Let me see if I can switch screens with this real fast. Bear with me as I try to toggle back and forth. But now that you see a Google Earth map, this is an image and a map of some of the routes in San Juan County. You're looking at Montezuma Creek, a very populous area with the San Juan County. Outside of this area, you have a school bus route that again we're able to maintain on here, and bare minimum maintenance. We're able to blade the road. That's it. Several years ago, we had met with NDOT out here with a concern where you have the river, the wash that's next to and adjacent to the road that's starting to wash out the road for years. And you can see it on the map. Whenever you see the map that shows this map with an image, this is 2019, you can see where the wash has eroded the side of the road and is taking the road away. You see cones there on that road so that people that are driving in the day, they can see that. There are some archaeological structures here that we need to be mindful that are over here against this cliff, this hillside over here and over here as well. But it's starting to erode into that area. The alternative route that has been chosen by people in the area is to come off that route and go up and over. You see the homes that are up in here. They don't have permission from the lessees here that lease the ground for their agriculture and their crops. So the lessee holders of this land, they haven't given permission for this alternative route, but something has to happen. And as I've mentioned, San Juan County, all we can do is blade back and forth the dirt. That's one example. And to me, when you look at roads and you have ownership of maintenance on roads, and if you're not maintaining them to a condition where you're preventing and you're cautious of life safety of the public, so you have homes in.
Hi, I just emailed you guys.
All right. So be cognizant you have homes in this area that travel this road at night. If they're not mindful of where they're at on that road, they could easily go off that road. There are no guardrails along these routes. These dirt roads, they're just dirt roads out there. And if they are new to this road, I worry about them traveling this road at night with the potential of them running off that road. There is an embankment right there that can easily go down in that wash. It's typically a dry wash until you get the monsoon season and run off. Then it has water in there every year. But I worry about the life safety. Life safety isn't being taken care of on San Juan County routes in our chapters. I want to go over and show another example. This is in San Juan County as well. Obviously, let me get to my map so I can pull up the right routes here. Got to drive backwards in my head, make sure where I'm at. So this is a White Rocks area. This is over where like Honorable Commissioner Mary Boy lives. In his area, his community that he lives in, heavily populated area again, you see in his area where he has graveled roads at one time. In the map, mind you, again, this is a 2019 shot of the status of roads on the overlay with Google Earth. You can see in here where they've gone through and crack sealed portions of the road. You also see degradation of the road in here, the asphalt treated system. You see where they ended, and the communities continued to drive outside of those roads in typical fashion that's not being maintained. They stopped at a certain point with the gravel on the asphalt and didn't go any further, obviously probably with the cost. But as the community continues to grow, all you see is the dirt roads on here. And as it continues to go out, I wanted to show you this example because this is what's happening across the Navajo Nation. When you look at the dirt roads, typical in any area, if the dirt road becomes impassable, if there's a mud area, if there's water that's ponding in the area, a washout, citizens go around. They go around that. And so on here, you can see where residents just in this community have had to go out of the main route. And so they're widening the road. They're widening the system. One of the concerns that we have, as well as the Navajo Nation has about the roads, is it's a lot of roads. It's a lot of NEPA that hasn't taken place on these roads. There's a lot of archaeological artifacts that are present. And if you're trying to protect those by not having improved infrastructure and improved roadways, you're actually making a condition worse, because these roads are now becoming wider than a standard road. They're going further and further out and around areas. causing much more problems. And you see that demonstrated in here. When you back up off of the maps, you start to see a lack of road system. There's no primary arteries. There's no anterior roads that are there, that are established, that are maintained. You just kind of see routes that people take because it's easier or quicker routes, but no real safe program that's maintained and upkept. We worry about the Navajo Nation roads that the county used to maintain. Those roads, if they're not properly maintaining on a proper schedule with the asphalt, whether it's a chip seal or a seal coat every 7 years, that type of thing, crack seal, taking care of potholes, center line stripes. These are something that's common in San Juan County that we hear of problems. If those aren't getting properly maintained, the asphalt just continues to degrade. It becomes gray, the oxidation, and the sun, just takes out all the oils, the binding between the aggregate. It all goes away and degrades that asphalt road. And so the asphalt roads that the county installed and put in the area with participation of the Navajo Nation is not being properly maintained and upkept. And so all of that asphalt that there and the costs and expenses to implement it is going away, almost so much to a point when you look at this community, you can start to see half of the road is gone. You see the crack seal that took place, but outside of that, nothing else is happening. And that system will continue to erode, continue to crumble to the point where it'll be more expensive to come back in and try to bring those roads up to a quality standard and a safe standard. Herman Farley's area, Red Mesa, we hear the same problem. He's got a lot of asphalt roads in the Red Mesa chapter area. Constantly, for a while there, we struggled just to get center line. It was a constant concern and a constant complaint of the public that, hey, we don't have center line, we don't have center stripe on this road. And at night, when you're traveling, it's hard to see where you're going without that reflective center line. It's harder to stay on the road. And for me, that's when you start to hear more and more of these life safety concerns for our citizens, then to me, we pay attention to those, because ultimately we as government officials are responsible to our communities for these roads and making sure that they're maintained in safe order and fashion. And what we're hearing from the public and from the commissioners, like Commissioner Mary Boyd mentioned, he goes out and he checks on these roads. He listens to a lot of complaints from his constituents, and he goes and looks at them and he reports it in. But we're stuck without being able to maintain those Navajo Nation roads. And then the Navajo Nation, what we hear, and the Navajo Nation, they've got a lot to do and a lot to cover throughout the whole entire Navajo Nation. And so there's been concerns and complaints whether or not they're maintaining these routes. We coordinated our efforts. I'm going to share another screen with you, with the Western Agency of the Navajo Nation. I feel overall, San Juan County, we really do try to meet with the representatives and our partners at a government level, lower government level. And so we're constantly meeting with lower level staff, with BIA, as well as NDOT. And one of the meetings that we had here at Red Mesa chapter with the Western Agency, hopefully you can see this image here, where we're looking at, we sat down with the Navajo NDOT staff that oversees this area, as well as our road department director, and we color-coded for Red Mesa, the chapter there, so that they could have this, they could see the visual of what San Juan County maintains and what NDOT is maintaining. And if there was any confusion, we worked it out on this map. And so that you see the color coding of, blue. San Juan County maintains kind of that red, purplish. I'm not a color guy, but that red or purple is what NDOT covers. You see those routes in there. When we looked at maintenance, we discovered that NDOT was also trying to maintain a road that San Juan County had on their map, on their list there for bus routes. And so we clarified that and made sure that NDOT and San Juan County we both weren't maintaining the same road. Some of the concerns that we have, though, with maintenance, if you look here, kind of in the middle of the map, you see where San Juan County, we maintain this road 5089. 5089 goes up and it intersects with 5142 here. And so we maintain that 5089 all the way up to 5142. We drive 5142 with our blade up and then hit this continuing on of 5081 a little bit higher. And so here you have a blade operator that's going through, he blades this road up to a certain intersection. He can't blade across until he gets to this other intersection and then continues on with his route in blading. And so there's this piece of road that he travels on both ways that he's unable to maintain, but he's got to get to his other route, utilizing it. Same thing on this northern portion. There's areas in here because we were restricted in our miles. When we established the IGA, and this is important to know, when we established the IGA, we had come up with a cost per mile. And if you look at the IGA and you back into the math on that, the IGA is a participation agreement with the Navajo Nation where San Juan County, we pay $100,000 in maintenance. Navajo Nation pays $100,000 maintenance and a total of 74.1 miles. And so if you take that 74.1 miles and divide it into that 200,000, it comes up to roughly around $2,750 a mile. So that's how much it costs. That's how much we determined back at that time is how much it would cost per mile. And so we tried to come up with the mileage based off of $200,000. That was our goal. How much can we get for $200,000? And so that's why you see kind of this segment of road being left out, because we were trying to just with mileage that equaled the 200,000. But that's created a huge inefficiency where individuals of the public will be driving a road that'll be well maintained, hit an area that is not maintained, that is so buckboarded, so washboarded out that they've got to slow down to 3 miles an hour for a small little section of road, and they can see it, they just down this area, then they can start to speed up on that road. And so you imagine you're trying to go down a road 45 miles an hour in the middle of the night, and you're new to this road, and all of a sudden you hit this little 1 mile stretch that isn't maintained. It creates a problem. And so we're concerned with that on the roads as well. And so that this kind of gives you a little bit better picture of the struggles that even though we try to do good with the IGA and the bus routes, and maintaining, at least the bare minimum of the routes itself, it's caused some heartaches and hardship, life safety concerns that I mentioned, and I think that's something that why we're here today and why we're asking to maintain more of the roads in our county. When you get up into Navajo Mountain, the Untitled chapter, it's the same thing. We go out and we maintain up on top, of just outside of the high school there at Navajo Mountain. We maintain the road right out to the edge of the cliff, and there's a good turnaround spot right there at the edge of the cliff before you drop down. This is just across from Jack Mesa. I think Commissioner Graz, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. There's
Navajo.
that Mesa.
Paiute Mesa.
Paiute Mesa. Yeah. Paiute Mesa. Thanks. So right across from Paiute Mesa, that road drops down to residents that are down in the county, down in that canyon. Now, we can't maintain down in that, and that's where they need maintenance the most, is down in the canyon as you're coming up there, traveling down down the cliffs there, or the side of the cliffs, and you're going down into a canyon, and it's all muddy and it's all washboardy and it's all washed out. There's rocks that have tumbled down that area, causing problems, and we can't maintain it, but we can maintain up on top, because that's the mileage, and the miles allows us to go that far, but it doesn't allow us to go down in, even though we're right there. When we first pushed out our blade operator to that area, he didn't know. He had bladed that area before, and he didn't know he wasn't supposed to go down into the canyon, but he did, and he maintained it, and so it looked better for a minute. Then the rains come, and it destroys it. If you don't constantly maintain it, then you constantly will have problems. And so those are some of the problems that we have, with the status of the agreement. The IGA, the term of the IGA goes until 2024. So we still have 2 more years at the current IGA if we kept everything as it is right now. However, we are asking, again, to maintain more of these routes, these roads in San Juan County. But I think overall, we all need to sit together and come up with a better program. There are a lot of funds, a lot of infrastructure funds that are at the state level as well as the Navajo Nation level. How can we implement those funds to where it benefits us in the future, that there's a return on investment of those funds, especially in our capital plan with roads, that we can come up with a strategy to get out of the dirt, that we can open up a lot. So we used to have gravel pits on the Navajo Nation. San Juan County could go in and access gravel from the gravel pits on the Navajo Nation. Those have been closed up to us. We need to get gravel back on the road. As you continue to blade dirt back and forth on a dirt road, all you do is continue to speed up the erosion. As the winds come, they blow off the dirt, they blow off the sand. If it's not compacted, it blows it away. If it's washboardy, it blows it away. And your roads are getting deeper, they're getting wider, and they need gravel. And the more gravel, the less you have to maintain them overall, because you have a surface there that is wearable, longer lasting. If we, 2,000 miles that were taken away from us, that's a lot of miles to asphalt, and we're not asking for that, but we are asking for betterment. We're asking that we can put gravel on the roads, that we have access to the gravel pits, that we can start working in partnership to come up with a plan of, the bus routes were the first priority. So what's the second priority? Let's work on the second priority now and start getting some of these roads open up to the homes, these heavily traveled roads. Let's get those. During COVID, constantly heard of problems with the elderly, or an elderly that's on dialysis. Like, hey, they've got to travel this road that they can only go 3 miles an hour on because it's so bad. We need help. County, can you come down and put your blade down? In the IGA, it's pretty specific. If you do not right away, anybody, you cannot cross these tribal lands unless you have tribal permission. And so we're hoping that we can work on that and get to that point. We've been working with BIA, and BIA has been really good to work with. One of the things we're working on with a future agreement with them is to take over more of the maintenance of their asphalt roads. And so we're working on a plan right now to work on that, see if we can get that. We don't want to maintain fence lines. We want to be able to maintain the roads so that the roads are upkept. They're upkept to an asphalt standard, is a regulatory standard that everybody understands on treatments, when you should treat those roads, how often, to make sure that you're keeping that asphalt at a good wear and tear, instead of just letting it fall apart to where it becomes so expensive to maintain it in the future. We shouldn't have sections of our roads in San Juan County where you have asphalt and then all of a sudden you go to dirt for 2-3 miles, and then after that 2-3 miles you pick up again on asphalt roads. It shouldn't be like that. We need to make sure that use of taxpayer funds, whether it's Navajo Nation funds or San Juan County funds, the state of Utah funds, that we're using those funds in a prudent manner, that we're responsible for those funds, and we're responsible to maintain the use of those funds and to protect what we've done in the past, so that it doesn't get worse to where it costs us more in the future. Other than that, I don't know, Commissioner Gray Eyes, if you have anything you'd like to add, if there's anything that I asked that your honorable council, that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for that. Mr. Gray Eyes, you have the floor.
Thank you. Sele Arun ta shen lidole. Senant ani tana shenigi anasko. Ani akwate choppy, so like kind of authorization. We'd like to see a continuity, to have those roads connection authorization. Basically, pursuing those type of projection is to seek resources, whereby if you have a choppy project, then it is unlikely that people will just point to and say that's the other guy's responsibility. So in the case Mr. McDonald indicated, 6310, all of you RDC that have been to Navajo Mountain, 2 times you've been on that route across the deep canyon, where you have clay type of substance. In some places, you were lucky that you had, during the summer when it's dry, that you crossed those areas of roads under those clay type substance. But during the winter, and it is a bus route, 6310. During the winter, when ice and snow and ice forms on these, and when it becomes muddy again, that's when you have the greatest problems of trying to traverse those areas of difficult terrain. So, so in that sense, I'd like to go ahead and Mr. Mayor Boy, he alluded to types of roads that he described in his areas, and mine is under Navajo Mountain 6310 system, Navajo system. And I also, in that sense, I have tried to see if we can transfer those authorities on the road system 6310. That's probably about less than 5 miles. And I tried to transfer to the Arizona whereby San Juan County or the chapter would maintain those. But nevertheless, we don't have the funds. Even though we have graders out there now within the community, funds and operators are very much needed. And those individuals that are licensed CDL operators are very, very hard to get in our community anyway. So in that sense, see if that could be done, chapters would be in a better shape. And the other thing is unrelated, maybe, or related as far as funding is concerned, is the royalty monies, oil and gas royalty monies. You probably know more about it than I do. 37.5%, as opposed to 62.5% going to the Navajo Nation. And the other one, the other area of the oil field, 100%. As these resources are declining, we will see that these oil royalties will be also disappearing in the future. And I'm trying to get some position as to where we can reverse possibly 62.5% would go to the Utah Navajo account. 37.5% would go to the Navajo Nation. Of course, you know, the 162.5% is going to all the chapters of the Navajo Nation, whether they be in New Mexico or in Arizona. And these are the conditions that we are in. If we can reverse those funding percentage, maybe we can cover some additional road maintenance costs with those monies, because in the stipulation of 1933, Act of 1933 states, and also amended in 1968, stipulates that education is one of the conditions that were cited in there. So with those, in fact, I think they stand up, but we as the Navajo leaders out here, county leaders, my perception is that we try and talk, communicate, and see if we can move a mountain. Of course, this consideration would have to go before congressional by legislation. So those are my thoughts. So thank you very much. Appreciate heck of a time getting on the audio and also visual. So again, I will continue to listen and also work with the people of the Utah Navajo chapters and also the Navajo Nation. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Mr. Gray Eyes. Thank you very much, Mr. Gray Eyes. Ado, this meeting was also requested not only by San Juan County commissioners, but also Honorable Herman Daniels asked to meet with them because of their concern. And I'm glad we're talking about this. And I'm glad we're talking about intergovernmental agreements. We have BIA on the call as well as NDOT that we can have a discussion here in a while. But before we move forward, I would like to have two of our colleagues introduce themselves. They are on the call from, she also represents Aneth area and Red Mesa area. Honorable Charlene Shaw.
Good morning, Shiaj. I don't know RDC Shanant Honorable Daniels, I don't Shazada, Honorable Wilson Stewart, I don't Nana Shiaj, Honorable Kialan Begay, I don't Shana, Mark Freeland, Koyad Epen, I don't Shanant San Juan Commissioners, Mr. Mary Boy, I don't Mr. Gray Eyes. Good morning to everybody listening. Charlene. So I do represent 5 chapters that encompasses Utah and Arizona side, and the chapters are Aneth, Mexican Water, Red Mesa, Isansmas, and Totlakan. So thank you, Chair, for allowing me to introduce myself.
Yeah, Honorable Aroso.
Resources and Development Committee members. So additional Charlene. Good morning. San Juan Commissioners, Mr. Greyash and Ados Che. San Juan County staff members. Good morning. My name is Otto So. I am a current member of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, representing the community of Tuba City. I don't know, it's within the Western Agency of the Navajo Nation. So, I did what I could naturally. Nanshad Kapan, I was seen. Look at Neda Shade, or Tina in the Schnell. I mentioned it all again and giving me this time and here's this idea.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. So, we also have on the call with us Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Brown. None. From the Office of the Vice President, as well as the President's Office, Mr. Filfred.
Good morning, Chair and members of Resource Development Committee and staff and other delegates that are on the line. Yat ben Ado, the San Juan County Commissioner, Shanella, Mr. Maryboy, Ado Shichedo, Mr. Gray Eyes, as well as Mr. Daniels, Yat. Davis Filford from Office of the President, Vice President. Good morning, and we had our OPVP Executive Staff Assistant. We try to do our 3-minute report, but it stretches out. And even in I just cut us down there. I don't big egg the cheat and she don't ask cheap was change. But and that's a chedo to the cheat that's another. And just for your information, Mike Shea, former councilman and chapter official, Bill Todichini. The route from Montezuma Creek going into Hidahati, like he gave me the route number. There's a portion where the culvert is now sticking out and causing damage. And I've been trying to get a hold of Larry Ute Joe from NDOT. No. But I've been trying to get a hold of him as well. Maybe he's on the line in dot sheet out there. So I know there's a tug of war between these roads, and if there is a tug of war, maybe both of them should just work on it. No, that was his issue. It about this to nana yat eto here. Going back on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Pilfred. Yeah. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Yate. I was trying to unmute on my iPad, but resource and development. Ado to the Navajo Utah Commission, the Utah Commissioners in San Juan County. Ado, I actually was just on a call with the Utah's Grand Escalante advisory group earlier also. So I know that we have other individuals on that meeting. So the main thing is, as a vice chair of the Navajo Utah Commission, we know that there's a big need. When I drive in San Juan County, Navajo, the roads need to be addressed. And I know Delegate Charlene So has expressed those concerns on the council floor. If we can continue to support these, and then the other thing on the Utah side in Denahutso is there's a scenic route by East Nazbus behind Denahutso, and then all the way to behind Monument Valley is a beautiful drive also. Imagine if we can connect that when at the same time we're working on the route from Navajo Mountain. That will allow the Navajo Mountain residents to travel if they want to Farmington, maybe that will cut 2 hours out, right? But we are planning on a possible resort in that area, a healing center when it's not when the peak season goes away, or for tourism. But just some ideas that we're going to continue to work on. I know that's a long way coming, but we will keep RDC updated, and we'll show you the work that we're doing also. So thank you for having this meeting, Shinado Resource and Development Committee.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Honorable Brown. At this time, we're going to give some time over to Red Mesa Chapter President, Mr. Herman Farley. Mr. Farley?
Oh, good morning, Honorable Delegate Mr. Rick Nez, the Chair, the Vice Chair, Mr. Thomas Walker, Honorable Delegate, the rest of the Honorable Delegates on the Resource Development Committee. Charlene, Honorable Delegate. So, Adonande, So, and then Adonande, Honorable Delegate Brown, Nathaniel Brown. That's not. I just want to say good morning, and Adonande, County Commissioner of State of Utah, San Juan County. Mr. Willie Gray Eyes. Mr. Tildo, Mr. Mary Boy. Then we have our administrator. I call two main areas of concern that I have. Just want to bring to your attention. And I'm glad this meeting is taking place this morning, and to have a productive meeting and have a good result to be made out of it. I call Dequijit Red Mesa community. We have 5 main arterial routes. I call it when the IGA became amendment signed at the Untitled Chapter. Afterwards, I reviewed it. And, Red Mesa community, these bus routes, 5 main arterial roads, it's not included in there. We're not listed a single road on the IGA. Johnson. And that's not fair, that's not right. Because we've been excluded. through this amendment, I'm asking that all these routes to be included. They now physical use in case deep any behind Mr. From the president's office, Davis Filford, and then it's just been a tug of war as who should be responsible in these for road grading. It's between the BIA, county, and then also NDOT. Benin nadi which the last kitchen had a share hot abigite, she's called the show. Hashet in should that no copen nashe, eben nashe, the snow, and Anna Slendy Anna so. The Hatin, John Hatchet, I'd open nashe. Another area of concern is that the BIA just recently, we're BIA road department. Speaking with the Shiprock Agency Road Department Superintendent Lennigy. His name is there are 4 main roads. I think it was 50, 60, 50, 61, 62, 50, 63. He authorized, the BIA Road Department authorized these routes to be maintained by San Juan County, Utah Road Department. There are just 2 other main routes, and then our 2 other routes, the paved roads are not included. That needs to be included. NDOT, Navajo Department of Transportation. I called them quite several times. See if they can come out and blade these roads. Our equipments are down. Although on a quarterly basis, roads are maintained at one time. So 4 out of a season, a year. But NDOT seems to don't have time to come out here to do these routes. If this Navajo Department of Transportation, might as well just give the whole authority, road blading back to San Juan County, Utah, and Soyoban Saskatchewan, and I don't know, or using that case, Halet Ados, Miss Anados, Miss Halet Abe, now it's so yet it on. You see, could the Kewit and the Utah begin to Kewit and the hot Abe, now it could not Hado Kahot, Indo be with Hato Hako, you think that in the bush, George $1,000. But it's really ain't no different than any other dirt roads out in the Navajo Nation routes. Only on the southern part of the Navajo Nation, Winter Rock area, the New Mexico and Arizona. I see. They're well maintained. So we come to a point where Red Mesa chapter, we do have a grader. And according to specification from the county in that road blading specification, maybe we'll take the bull by the horn and it liability. But these routes are in the terrible bad shape on these bus routes. San Juan County school district bus drivers on Lindenben or Chonside today halet what you pass I think the hidden Josh than his snow. I need what not only that, but the all the vehicles are in that way. Oba now can yeah, the snow as an sniggy, and hot or silly, as shown the Kodidi, Red Mesa community. These are the 5 main arterial routes. At I'm asking that to be put on the IGA amendment for as an amendment to be included. We need your approval on that. What's that? I don't hear la that's a call Benin now, quiet by any but I did over now. I don't know the BIA authorizing the routes to be given back to the San Juan County Road Department, Utah GBG. What on high you like it been what we want a concurrence of approval to be part of that amendment as well. That on these bus routes, but I don't now. This is not. Thank you for giving me the time to say a few words. I don't syndicate. See, though, the ha in the band just here. I don't ha just open nasher. Even get in hard yet. The low and car was been yet. A call. Abana or car. The Hana law. No, let though that and the clean though that it eats at the hadet. It's not all using Saki. A call and can shake with the AA Kana, then the clinic which. I hit the class, but then they in a quantified. Nonetheless, it's out and a don't make so that the nature hints and now she deny a question and not sending not sending honorable delegates. Oh, because the non-county commissioner they're doing as much as best they can to meet our needs. Copenhagen. What I they thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Herman Farley. Out of Ahinchiki, out of Koroshe, you have Mr. Kenneth Maryboy, but you have later. Mr. Maryboy, this intergovernmental agreement between the Navajo Nation, Ado San Juan County, it was signed back in February 24, 2020 by the Office of the President and Vice President.
Yeah.
Ado San Juan County, April 7, 2020. This is 2 years ago. This is right during the pandemic. Was there ever an IGA before 2020? Mr. Maryboy, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, really appreciate that. I don't know not Shanant not Senigi. Eventually, we negido Quebenan Hidek Ani what the only thing that was given back to us is bus routes. AD Pasigi Akayado list. Quadoni. Sunday got Ahat Ega what is Ako Zita Sunday it Shanaya Nagi Herman. Do it Ani what Sahobat Ahush Kizgo Eliana. Jean what ended a chain a Bakayan the bus route. I aided out with a Nana Sajat away. I get as a county bata Williana a tenderbound on do. So I did that. Accord did it the last meeting we had a necessary clear down shita. It down as a clear by a day. Ado is togo a down in Kitin needle a has always enough clay. Ado in the Inkitan nado us. Kitin need accord. But indeed, we had several meetings in Shiprock with the INDOT for BIA Satat for Babi Gatase. INDOT, they got usable sanitary hold this. Ado, she pays a door long day, peso is a nil. A quay a team by Bagulia. Sunday got tasataha ki tasatande sango sa jo belagate anigishin hit Navajo Nation based upon that nilla. Ado in the Asia Haliado le notion Ajabe nilla donate chase the But as our administrator is saying, should on need to be ratande. Da was a quado yal on that is Tadi Chini on Anhiba Huliado list. Should eat need. Ado by yelty. Oko the national loan. This meeting at the Sassi Nagishita. So the Dahune list. If some kind of an action was to be taken, Oko Nidia Shinaya Hatsi Herman Farley. The Naedo. So it all Nanzanda. Asagi in. Whatever you need na to quick heart zita. Fishing boxing, not a later I not I yet, Nilo Tina, but a sneezing should own the shit. A call Bebeton, decoy best out, the sound so gay decoy would ebit need. So I see who joined it, Jean would end that we kept coming before you and those that are in charge of these other programs. Even na not stale shita. In any way that you can, you will bend the hesitate. But later should say a heart to the door you peso. Navajo Nation being day 62.5%. Greater NS Bill 100%. Ajo non-day Nikeda 62.5%, 32.5%. What area? Panahin deho ade back in nanil zil. A corporate national law so the ayat the shin ben hatsodo khosho illenigi edet eshita. So with that, I really do appreciate for you listening and I hope some kind of a consent will come to play as soon as possible. I have my administrator and my rope man, my chairman, Commissioner Gray Eyes on the line. Ado Shinant, Ado, Mr. Farley, and then some others listening. Ako deep in that she nebe tris nina get be benant ahagishi pa de dilni shita. So shota del in that on so ede ahun shane de with kudo be sadigit on this net all shita.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Mary Boy. Honorable members of RDC, this memorandum of agreement, as well as other agreements, whether it's a memorandum of understanding, RDC and BIA, as well as NDOT, and the President's office, because the President's office is the ones that are signing off on these agreements based on what I just saw. We need to revisit pretty much all the MOUs and MOAs from all three states, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. We would like to see the differences and make recommendations on how to amend the IGAs between these three states, counties, and what we will do is we need to schedule a meeting as soon as possible. Another meeting today is like a refresher course, but the next meeting, we're going to make sure that NDOT as well as BIA, San Juan County, and those that, even from the President's office, Mr. Filford, we would like to hear your recommendations as to how we can amend this IGA Aquado hot abahon agonda and hit a nash machine and data dot, but shit the otahanda stars of a delegata. That way we know that there's maintenance being done. Somebody needs to be responsible for these road maintenance. We will define these areas of responsibility. Let me give some time over to Honorable Herman Daniels, and then I'll give some time over to Mr. Garrett Silversmith. Mr. Honorable Daniels. And Honorable Daniels.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Kudo. And yes, Kudo. I was muted. Kudo, the great Kudo, Becky, Neki, Kudo. Shananta, Senegi, Resources Development Committee. A shares within Kudo. I don't know, Kudo. So I had in meet with meeting with San Juan County commissioners in Lenigi Aja now in Lenigi. My brother with Commissioner Mary Boy, out of the Commissioner Gray Eyes with on the line, out in the Administrator with Mr. McDonald. Thank you for joining us. And also we have BIA. And also the Mr. Silversmith, thank you. I need hot Adida Kudo. That is Kudo. The Yego and the Hot Equado. Not Senegi or you. Marie adequate Kanda. And here when we went out to Nakatsan area. Marie, we crossed that big canyon, the Paiute Canyon. It's at Nana, it's came up, caught Nana, a craggy dot one is boulders, but that done the massacre. So that ego that equado a equado that and that igi yego equado a late ice at was Ninka, Adonana Quado. We have bus routes in San Juan County. Yeah, before that agreement took place, before that, San Juan County, they used to maintain the roads kind of like on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. They used to be out there checking on the roads, checking on the bus routes. So there's IC and how the area, not on area, and all the way to it's not bus. Diego Ben Daz. The Cocodo, Yanan Ho Cocodo. San Juan County Commissioners. A team again, it's a not left on the Cocodo, a car a year, Jota in a shadow. Yeka Nani is what all this. Jota, the that's what I want to hear talk about today. I think a team gets it on that say Arunda. But now we the other so now I don't know about San Juan County Commissioners that they're saying this for the Utah Navajo on the Utah side, but also for Aya and Nicodo, Marais Tweedofani, elders that travel these county roads. I don't know about bus routes. Buses that travel on these county roads for the safety of our Navajo people on the San Juan County side. I don't let Banahot or Cows. It doesn't paint all this. I don't know a bit of each one here. Hate either don't know where you had this, which is good. AIC for the Ecuador. I don't know any what in that. I don't I Abahanasri in that. They do 15 miles per quarter throughout the Navajo Nation. I don't know in that. So I see Michigan Arden has a whole 27,000 miles, 27,000 square miles of land. That's a big area to cover. So, Kwadonagay from the Navajo Nation would like to say that we need to reach out to entities like that. Like for instance, this is a San Juan County again. So what that ego that just can't need just for this. I don't know agreement. Then you can't get a seat that as editors means. So without Mr. Farley, we have without some of the roads as well. Some of the roads weren't included in that agreement. Or you had vehicle. What that tell the thing that the need is without should not Senegi. I don't know without Banan hit or can't without. So I need what energy down. When you're in Utah, when you're on the reservation, a teen, I see how to work. But when you go off the reservation, like in the radar blending, out on the Monticello, the radar county roads, gravel, Dalia. I see benefits in the hot. So what I think for doing the Hashing what I in then for ever bands case look at all. So it is Yakudo, I see for them. Obana of Scott or let's talk with all the radar. A team that all year. But the one day, may sort are they this thing for you could open Yana Haliano like before the agreement finally had the Ayat Halianata or Ayana Haliano. A conagata. Some of these roads, the paved roads, the key county roads, you'll see a lot of potholes. Like for example, Nagay from Goulding's store all the way to Ojeto, that county road 42, Adonana Nagay, Red Mesa, Don Leda, Masagon, Tiniki, potholes. Oh, what the hell you? Ada or that, ego that, she get nanas, the store, it get in the Kodo. So it is whatever has state or let's go. We really need to address these roads. I don't know Kwadon Gaita, Kwadon Ben Kitchen, it's a high Kwadon. I see the kids as well as window Kwadon. Hika, the Gina Kwadon. On from a state or less. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Daniels. Let me give some time over to Mr. Garrett Silversmith at this time. Mr. Silversmith, you have the floor.
Good morning once again, Honorable Chair Nez and honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, RDC, and other members from other committees who have joined. All our partners, once again, Bureau of Indian Affairs, San Juan County, Utah, and other leadership and community members who are on the call. This is Garrett Silversmith again. I'd like to provide my input and feedback to this morning's discussion here as follows. I just wanted to reemphasize the meeting's intent and my understanding of the meeting, where it's headed to. And I really like the positive discussion here. And I wanted to confirm and commend San Juan County, Utah leadership, the board, as well as the leadership there, for actually coming forward to the Navajo Nation and providing assistance to the Navajo Nation as far as what they can provide additionally on top of what they are already doing. As we heard from Commissioner Maryboy and Mr. McDonald here, that an IGA was established in February of 2024 that provides limited maintenance assistance from San Juan County, Utah, in the form of dirt road blading of approximately 70 plus miles. So that has been in existence over the 2 years, and that's been going positively and progressively. Now, from my understanding, the scope of work at the request of San Juan County, they want to go beyond that. And again, that's a very welcome request and progressive feature we should go in toward. And we welcome the assistance. And I believe Mr. Mahoja would say the same thing here because San Juan County is asking to provide maintenance assistance on school bus routes. And anytime that the entities such as the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Navajo Nation can receive assistance, we should quickly go forward with that. And once again, I welcome that on behalf of our division. So currently, some numbers here that I want to share with you. Within the BIA and Navajo Nation's tribal inventory, there's approximately about 9,600 miles of existing dirt roads across 5 agencies. And probably about a fifth of that, of course, around maybe close to 2,000 miles. About 2,000 miles exist within, well, actually 4,000 miles exist within the Western Agency and Northern Agency, the 2 agencies that we're talking about here. So collectively, out of those 9,600 miles across the 5 agencies, it will take about $29 million to maintain those routes 1 year, blading 4 times a year. So that's a high number and number that is something that funds that the Navajo Nation does not have, and I'm pretty sure BIA doesn't have. So it's almost impossible to maintain those 9,600 miles. Both BIA and Navajo Nation don't have in possession the resources or the manpower, heavy equipment. However, with our funds that we have established a Federal Highway Administration regional road blading plan that's been in existence since 2013. And since 2013, we've been blading routes for those chapters who are participants in the quarterly blading using our federal funds. And we spend there about $4.5 million every year just for blading purposes with our federal funds, about $4.5 million. This is for all agencies. And we apply that every quarter for our communities across the Navajo Nation. Comparatively, on our internal Navajo Nation road funds that are derived from the fuel excise tax, we spend about another $2 million for other routes that are established within our 5 agencies. So collectively, we run about maybe $6.5 to $7.5 million of just road blading services that we provide to all 5 communities. So there's a big discrepancy there. $7.5 million minus, if you look at the overall need, there's $29 million. So that's discrepancy there. We got to make that up somewhere. And that's about $22 million we have to make up somewhere. So again, this goes back to the San Juan County. They're willing to provide this additional assistance. And yes, that's going to be a big help, a big positive. So I commend the leadership there at San Juan County initiative for proposing this idea. And a question now, one of the questions that was presented, or not a question, but a comment by Chair Nez is, what's the process here that we can progress forward as far as making this realistically? So we have an established MOU that was signed in 2018, and it expires 5 years from then, which is in 2024. And also our current IGA with the 70 plus miles that is established, that one would be my recommendation that we would amend. And that was, of course, signed in February 2020. So we would, my suggestion here, my feedback is to amend that existing IGA that we have right now to incorporate this proposal from San Juan County, Utah, to provide coverage for additional miles across the Western and Navajo agencies. So that's my suggestion. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I guess this would probably go to our legal teams here, is maybe it would just progress up to the RDC level for review, consent, and approval. And I'm not too sure if it's goes beyond that. But to me, that's not a straightforward approach as far as getting this current IGA amended to include the additional mileage and so forth. I believe we would have to, it would have to be dependent upon how much we want to define, how much we want to provide details I mean by specifically, if we amend this current IGA, then we would have to include certain route numbers within each of the chapters within both Western and Northern Agency that it encompass within San Juan County, Utah. List those route numbers or mileages, and then put that into this IGA, that much like what we have in our existing IGA. So that would be one simple process. Or we just put simple coverage language that says this is option number 2, where we would just say, as deemed necessary or what the conditions present, we give authorization and permission and guidance to San Juan County, Utah, to provide maintenance services on these routes within these chapters in Western and Northern Agency, and then kind of define that a little bit more. We wouldn't have to be very specific about route numbers or the mileages. It'd just be at their discretion when they make their site visits, when they make their assessments. But that's my suggestion for that option number 1 or option number 2. And I'm sure we certainly welcome the assistance. As we heard from Honorable Delegate Daniels, is the vast amount of responsibility and tasks that are upon the division here, and then as well as the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So, in brief, that's my responses and my response and feedback to this morning's discussion. So again, I commend the San Juan County, Utah, for proposing this assistance to provide to the Navajo Nation and to the BIA for maintenance on all these routes. As we know, these routes are critical, and they provide bus route accessibility, healthcare, first responders, and so forth. And one last note here I wanna share with you before I temporarily halt here, is that I believe the intent here is to provide additional road blading services and expand that, which is great. But we need to go beyond that as well, because you all know that once we blade a road, it's only good for about a week or 2 weeks, and then we're back to realistically almost to square one. So these funds that we are pursuing, that we want to try to secure, we take that to the next level. And these routes that we are blading on a quarterly basis, we need to advance those improvements, such as gravel laydown, soil stabilize, and chip seal. And that way, if we bring an existing state of a road from a dirt road to a chip seal or a soil stabilized state, then we don't have to blade quarterly. We wouldn't have to blade at all for 1 year. But it's expensive. But you look at that from the long-term perspective, and that's but a more efficient investment of our money, when we improve levels of the surface of roads, elevate that to a chip seal or soil stabilized. That way we wouldn't have to blade for 1 whole year or maybe 2 years. We have roads that we've done that before, and although it's expensive, we don't have to blade for 2 years. Of course, we have to go back on year 2 and year 3 and do some maintenance on those routes. But again, that can be very, very expensive. And quarterly blading, that's $750 per mile every time we do that every quarter. That's just for 1 mile. Whereas if we were to blade, or as if we were to improve a route to a gravel surface, to a soil stabilized surface, we're looking about maybe $250,000 per mile. If we chip seal it, that'll be about $400,000 per mile. Again, that can be expensive, but that's a long-term solution from my viewpoint. But again, thank you everybody for everybody's wonderful feedback on this Friday before we head into the weekend, and RDC members and other delegates from the 24th Navajo Nation Council. I'll return it back to you, Honorable Chair Nez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silversmith. That you're willing to work together as well to make these amendments to the intergovernmental agreements that is before us. Also, Mr. Maryboy, the under amendments of this agreement, does say that this IGA may be amended in writing by mutual consent of all parties. No amendment shall be considered final until a written amendment is executed by all parties, approved by the County Board of Commissioners, and recorded with the San Juan County Recorder. The parties may propose an amendment to this IGA by submitting a written amendment request with a 30-day notice to the other party. I believe that's what we're doing today, is making these recommendations. Honorable County Commissioners, as well as we have the President's office with us on the call, Mr. Silversmith, as well as Oversight Committee here, RDC. And before we move forward, we would like to hear from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Mr. Mahoja.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Nez. I think for our response, I'll turn it over to our Transportation Officer, Herbie Larson. Herbie, can you go ahead and respond on behalf of the region?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Larson, you have the floor.
Good morning. This is Herbie Larson with BIA Transportation. On our BI roads, we have a cooperative agreement with San Juan County, Utah, to perform routine maintenance on all our earth roads or dirt roads within San Juan County, Utah. And right now, that agreement is ready to expire, and we're in discussion and negotiation with San Juan County to renew that agreement. So that's where we're at with our program. In that renewal, we're gonna add all the BIA paved routes to that agreement. So we're working to provide cost estimates for the additional paved road maintenance. So that's where we're at with our maintenance. San Juan County does all the, like I said, they do all the road grading on in San Juan County, Utah, that are BIA roads. And under that agreement, they're responsible for all the planning, scheduling, and performing those road maintenance activities on those dirt roads. And so when we renew that agreement and add those paved routes, then San Juan County would be responsible for managing that agreement and scheduling those maintenance activities on paved roads. So that's all I have. Any questions, comments? I'm going to go on mute.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Mr. Mahoja, anything you'd like to add?
No, I'd just like to say that, we're here to work cooperatively and collaboratively with the parties. If folks need assistance from us and we can provide it, we're willing to do that. Just reach out and let us know. And with that, I'll return the floor to you, Chairman Nez.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoja, for that. Honorable members of RDC, Mr. Tahi, I believe we need to schedule a meeting as soon as possible to make these amendments to the IGA. I would recommend that we meet on March 2. Honorable members of RDC and Mr. Tahi, if we could move the RDC meeting up to about 8 o'clock in the morning and have a special meeting that day at 8 o'clock, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we can have this meeting with San Juan County, Utah, NDOT, the President's Office, RDC, as well as BIA on March 2 at about 2 o'clock. That would be a recommendation that we can move forward as soon as possible. And we would like all parties to provide their recommendations as to how we will amend this intergovernmental agreement. Mr. Herman Farley stated that 5 roads were not on the list. Perhaps working with county commissioners over there, Mr. Farley, make those recommendations to them as well. So this would be our recommendation. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any comments or questions? Colleagues?
Chairman Kellen.
Honorable Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman, Ado Kudo Naki do Ado Bansi Tiki Ado Kudo my colleague, former colleagues, Kudo former chairman, Mr. Gray, I got this check. Ado Kudo Mr. Mary Boy. My only recommendation, just like we're giving certain authority to each of the division directors with consultation of the oversight or the president's office. I think we as a policymaker so that we don't really need to be involved in a way as far as delegates. For Mr. Silversmith, though, the counties, our best administrators, that way, so that way, to get things going. But as a report, which is good. So, I mean, we got probably another area that will be in the same situation. Maybe ask our legislative council to provide a recommendation at the next meeting in working with the Department of Justice. Mr. Silversmith, did all Asia, what a good article by Bahan, what did all Quacket in Kiba, needs and Dobe cut nature on his Eastern needs and baseball under the local chapter officials in Zinigi to a what a go if the that the needle is a team, stays nacky, don't maintain it nacky. Apoko Shisa Zero of Nahaban just case the Zinigi. So did those all photo at the act and Shisato Yini Hato Asato Odin Zinigi Pisa in the Eat. What Abbey has Agago Diego Bessinda Huichisto Bestayek Hato Ako Hashan. I mean, we gave some authorities, such as like the land department, regarding the right-of-ways and homicide approval. So in that, administratively, and there should be a mechanism somewhere where in that would really start working on giving themselves certain days to say that, so hey, it's not your cost, not I guess not at least not these other petition these Joe Quacky automatically expire in neck on the machine factor that Quack it's here not less. We rush a lot of these documents through. I don't think as far as funding, Nikki, that's another area that we probably need to look into. Again, a recommendation. Like for example, on the Arizona side, and this is what I've been making reference to the like FET, the fuel excise tax. Maintenance as far as dirt roads, based on how much do we need to do to put to set aside fundings for that purpose? Other like New Mexico, other Utah, automatically so I may miss certain area of the discussion, but overall, I mean, now we know that across the reservation, same situation in the 5 chapters that I represent, similar situation and such. Let's blanket across the Navajo Nation so that each and every road on the Navajo Nation is being addressed. Based on Liniki, other age include ADDiki, Danti, Niki, Hagoshi, gravel key that is getting it ready for as a project ready for so that's more of a bigger area that we're dealing with, but more maintaining it on a daily basis. Now the other area, I know I'm just putting in a lot of issues here. The chapters, you equipment, and I know a lot of them, and what they is that a certified individual to operate these heavy equipment. Aimed at each chapter. Just I'm leaning towards in allocating certain amount of funding to chapters from this opera funding for aid equipment that has not but still yet they'll still have an issue with an operator, a certified operator of these heavy equipment. So chapters has potential to really help out of getting some of these equipment in place. So in the Ecuador, the leadership in that picture, other chapters equip them with a lot of resource and funding so they'll be able to help out on working on a lot of these counties. I mean, these roads to they could be able to, INDOT could be able to go into with MOU with all of these certain counties, road or BIA roads or other roads. So I see a lot of potential, but the thing is the MOA or MOU gets back into play, but Andik Banahorches it needs to be renewed, don't need it at it. So I would say that I see a shorty, not any give certain authority back to the INDOT and then give certain resource and funding to the local chapter to really help themselves with it. the Hudson chapters and indicate. So I would chairman, that's the recommendation as far as working in scheduling a meeting. So from now until then, we don't really need to get those answers right away, but maybe our staff can pose these questions to our legislative council, if not DOJ, with working with NDOT and BIA to say that there's no way of getting this road resolved. So I would the MOU nigo or not so they don't bet the initial ajo baga the hason kuje a tinigi do so I think that's where we need to head into so with all these funding that are being available, I believe that we could be able to equip a lot of our chapters with these equipments. Yes, of course, although a year, 2 years later, chapters will be dealing with O&M again. But somehow we got to help our local chapter and also helping the director administrators to really hammer these out internally without really an interference by certain elected officials, unless it's necessary. Legal issues and so with that, Chairman, I'm hoping I'm clear on my recommendation. Otherwise, I think this is where we need to head in getting certain services being available immediately rather than just waiting on officials to talk about it and determine what needs to be done. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. That's a really good recommendation you just made. Mr. Silversmith, would you concur to have a policy change in reference to how we as RDC have given some authority to the land department to make some decisions on their own administratively? And the recommendation is to give you some authority administratively to NDOT to make some of these decisions on these agreements, so it doesn't have to continue to come before oversight. It can come before oversight when there's issues involved in it, and it can also involve our legal counsel as well. So to facilitate some of these agreements, Mr. Silversmith, would you agree to some of these responsibilities that could be given to you?
Chair, Honorable Chair Nez, yes, I would welcome the idea to take this additional recommendation and progress from here. As Honorable Delegate Begay had mentioned, it's very viable, and it sounds contains a lot of potential and positiveness there to just to curtail and just to lessen the amount of the processing overall, to shorten it and to move it efficiently, whereas some of that responsibility would go to various division directors or other comparable leaders, and let them take it from there. And then as far as they have their resources at hand to guide them in those decisions, and those resources meaning DOJ and so forth. And that would, something like this would, as an example, could move forward. We could progress. For an example, this IGA amended, and I was looking at page 4 of our current IGA, and it does have language in there that the decision or the amendment would have to, it goes as far as the approval will go to the County Board of Commissioners and just recorded by the San Juan County Recorder. So this is an example, and as far as an example of what we can do as it relates to this topic here. And it would allow for savings of RDCs and other committees' time to one less important critical item that's given to other programs and divisions, and it saves time. comparatively funding, and then just shortens the amount of oversight. But yes, of subjects of the discussion that are overall high importance, of course, then we'd still approach RDC. But in overall, I agree with what you had asked me, Chair Nez and Honorable Delegate Kiel McGee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silversmith. What we're discussing is pretty much already in the amendment portion of the agreement. Mr. Maryboy, Mr. Gray Eyes, I thought this IGA may be amended in writing by mutual consent of all parties. It sounds like that part gives the authority to you all to make these amendments and expedite some of these road situations to where who's going to be responsible for this and that. Ms. Khan, are you on the call?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have been following the discussion and have been looking at the language that you are quoting from. Yes, I am listening and I am on the call.
Okay, thank you. With this amendment that is written in the IGA, it appears that we would like your legal recommendation, Ms. Khan, your legal opinion on this. Does this provide NDOT and San Juan County the authority to just work things out to where they can amend what they are respectfully requesting from each other? Ms. Khan?
Mr. Chair, in the amendment portion, which is 2.13 in the IGR, it states that it talks about the parties. In this case, this IGR, as I am looking at it, the parties are the Navajo Nation and the parties are the San Juan County. And you go down to the Navajo Nation on the signature page is signed by the president, and the San Juan County signature is the chairman of the Board of Commissioners. So this, I would say that with regard to the amendments 2.13, the Navajo Nation certainly has the Navajo Department of Transportation's. They have the authority, which is stated in their purpose, having to do with the roads on the Navajo Nation. I would want to talk with Ms. Veronica Blackhat, who I have with Department of Justice, who I have been sending this information to as we have been going along, and to get her recommendation as to how to make the amendment. At this point, I do see need for the perhaps just the Department of Justice working with the Navajo Division of Transportation. However, if you would allow me some time to have this discussion with the Department of Justice as to perhaps an amendment could be made also to the intergovernmental agreement to specifically state that the Navajo Nation is authorizing the Navajo Department of Justice itself to actually be the signatory of the intergovernmental agreement. These are things I need to talk over with Department of Justice Veronica Blackhat. So I do not want to give you a definitive answer on that, other than to say currently the parties in it are the Navajo Nation, and it doesn't say specifically Navajo Department of Transportation. And I would need to discuss the issue with Department of Justice Veronica Blackhat. Mr. Chair, if you would give me the time, it would take a couple of days. I don't know where Veronica Blackhat is. She's not responding to the emails that I have been sending her. So I can't have that discussion with her right at the moment. I would need a little bit of time, but it certainly shouldn't take more than a day or two to get a definitive answer on that one. Mr. Chair, thank you for listening to my thoughts on this particular issue. I will go on mute now.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for providing us with some very important response. Another question that I have is, could the Resources and Development Committee have a legislation drafted to give some of these authorities to Mr. Silversmith from NDOT so they don't need, NDOT does not need to come to RDC, or San Juan County, Utah does not need to come before RDC, but they themselves will sit and make these amendments and changes and work together for the good of our people. Ms. Khan, can this agreement authority be given to Mr. Silversmith at NDOT? That's my question.
Mr. Chair and members of the Resources and Development Committee, the Resources and Development Committee's authorities are specifically stated in Title II, and there's a provision in those Title II authorities that states the manner in which a delegation of authority can be given to a division, in this case, a division director. And we would need to follow that particular portion of Title II in which with regard to how that is to be done and is to be done through legislation, Mr. Chair, and I would need to research that a little bit more, but there is a provision for how Resources and Development Committee may delegate whatever authorities it has listed within Title II, Section 500 series, Mr. Chair, and I see there is a authority to delegate. I would need to research further as to what language in particular would need to be provided in a resolution for RDC to do so in this particular situation. Again, I would feel more comfortable talking about this issue with Veronica Blackhat with the Department of Justice as soon as I can reach her, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. I had made a recommendation to have a special RDC meeting. RDC meets on Wednesdays, and Wednesday, March 2 is when we also have that meeting, but it's the only day that we have open to have an update meeting for NDOT, BIA, as well as San Juan County commissioners here. And if we could move that regular meeting up to about 8 o'clock to have a special meeting, then we can have this follow-up meeting in the afternoon about 2 o'clock to bring everybody together. And perhaps we can have that special meeting also in person at NDOT. That way we can have everybody at the table after the RDC meeting and have this meeting at about 2 o'clock to really sit and discuss. And we would like at that time, Ms. Khan, to have some answers to our concerns about these amendments. And perhaps Department of Justice and yourself can collaborate and respond at that time to Ms. Khan.
Mr. Chair, this is Mariana Khan again, and I will get together with the Department of Justice and present the questions which you have asked today in today's session, and provide between the two of us after some discussion, we will be able to provide your answer at that time, at that point, if not sooner, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. I'm going to give some time over to Chairman Notoso now.
Yeah, I did. It's actually good.
Oh, what is
okay. All right. Yeah. Got my video, trying to get my video camera on. But anyway, this discussion pertaining to the MOA that's been proposed and the parties that are at the table. I want to just indicate that what Honorable Key Allen Begay spoke to relating to some of these authorities given to the division directors and at the administration level, I believe that is something that should be done, because if you look at Congress, Congress does not get into the business of trying to get its federal agencies to do its responsibilities. And I believe as a nation, and I do fully support that. And I believe our, all the agencies under the administration should be in that capacity. And on that, the other thing, before the authority is given to them, is that the equal concept of at the agency level is something that is very, very important, because I'm going to use the TTIP plan. If you can look at how the plan was approved, and the plan came from the administration, it's at a sliding scale factor. And again, I'm going to go and say Western agency got the smallest amount in the TTIP. And the response from the division director is, these are the listing that are on there. But what I'm getting to is that in the authority given to the, when this legislation is being developed, we need to make sure that an equal concept of distribution of funds to the at the agency level is very, very important, because Western agency maybe our ears are different in Western Navajo than the delegates that are coming from the Eastern, or maybe from Fort Defiance or Central. I don't know. But it's a sliding scale. You have one agency getting $72 million in road funds. And I believe Northern Agency, and that covers part of Charlene So's area. They got, I believe, $35 million. And Western Agency in Utah area, 14 million, about 13.8 million, I believe that was the number. But these type of MOAs or these agreements could be factors so that the parties from the San Juan County or the state level could use these dollars to match funds to try to address the roads at the local level. I really enjoyed this conversation though. Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable. So, honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? Then, Mr. Kenneth Maryboy, Korosh Wahanansi.
Thank you, Shita. Thank you very much. Ado Shanat Mustanigi. Be Yasti do Bayastigi. Diego Ben Hawkinson. But the Nahut Igi, ne what a story. Doshita Asa or Chesaton, Nesigi Eda. Quende, you try, Kodoi, the Nekwa Zolo na Ahsno. Wata Nata, Doshinwa Atande. But yet, It's a common way communicating with your leader and your community. Ko tida pahwint enigi. I will have that amendment draft within a couple of hours or maybe within less than a week. Yes, I do say. Probably end up in the black hole somewhere, but the new amendment Ado in the dolo you wait Edanson. After Snenigi do siko hot on sat on nesto a chedol neatly. Latea Gushima eat soti, no that. Hill was at a hill cheat. We're jumping up and down, hollering wolf. Dolo you wait Eda. Skidant and not that with a sweet ow. The ne hit and zendon day. Tina or is a lane leg on there. No Bajopa, you don't know a better use concept. Honk at the Shinas in the Navy kitchen. Or what that's that. But for those kid, is card or hinge on go hard and eating. Hardo in the A assistant dealness. To a day, you see, when you get assistant dealness. You know, we might have some difference in a lot of ways, but it's been that. But Eki, you the net, I see, a day, you see, bad illness, or bad illness. That's what I think. I think that's the right approach. So as far as that amendment goes, we will have that ready ASAP. And on that amendment, we'll probably allude to some fundings. Of course, Mr. Key Ellen McGay, the president, the old Congress on loan rate and that's a really good enlightenment of understanding how things should be. Of course, for those with Alban's case. Those should not way St. Louis, Missouri, than Mr. Nanny, Anna Stingy with a spade, Nashana, or his spade, the sort of the capes. Of course, with our A, nature, Hanas, Zido, Lishita, Ado to call for another meeting. Yes, I appreciate that. Let's get this going and get it out of the way and start moving on again. With Abana, Stido Lichita. Ado, thanks for allowing my administrator and my departments. We will start working on this along with my county commissioner chair Willie Gray Eyes chasing with the Regi a kid that says an elabana. Regi del Janal source horse at that evening. I hear
Go ahead, Mr. Mary Boy. Mr. Gray Eyes?
Sena, Nada, Sanao, I give the only thing that I had around had Ila and now Benika, Benas, Benika. To what negos that or national is the federal government. 1868 treaty rights. The basic intent of that treaty right is the full service to be provided by the federal government. Oh, BIA, oh, the yeah, based on the nation. What's the purpose? Maybe like Mr. Silversmith said, we need additional 22 million to possibly just to meet the needs of today's road grading of the Navajo Nation roads. Trust responsibility. How can we increase that through litigation? I think there's a lack of responsibility. As you know, treaty is the ultimate agreement throughout the whole world. But nevertheless, Navajo Nation, other Indian nation has been that have treaty rights are not fully honored. I see that I Sorry about this kiss. Yeah, that's an I'll sort of back to you. Tele.
Akoshila Keha, Mr. Gray Eyes, Arabahanai Ekro, what Eki, Dohun Zaha or Kisti, Alago Nabikia Seal, Hodo, Niso, Hot Our Lea, Shimpest, Ahodone. Ashene, Behes Aniki, Ohit Ashgatet, Aniki, Anahegate, Ahjo, Hardaliago, Biga. We can move forward now and make these amendments. But between NDOT and San Juan County, and we can facilitate the meeting at that time, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs can be there as well. And hopefully we can approve that meeting on March 2 in the afternoon to follow up, and we would like for everyone as a follow-up recommendation to bring to the table their list of recommendations and additional roads that were left out. Atin sabara hayos nato do da bakage shin pihito pito Asian hotel do nesto nasna on nestole. So Asian day hotel late. Arushan and honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions? Ashbahatsi at Danish. Chairman. Not. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, go ahead.
Yes, Chairman and committee members, though, Mr. Staff, Mr. Tahi, Ms. Woody, don't have it. I don't Ms. Khan, though she OPVP, though, Shatila, Hading, Yitanata, Koto, Shananta Bishpan, the Talt, the Quair, Micho, Kadich, Yat Echo, Ado Quair, Shiktawi Nagi. A large quail, Keto, Shiltahudil, Machinado, Nitsulenko, San Juan County Commissioners, Sunant Akoshastri, Yat Echo, Hata Initiative, Ado Tras and the Lesnat Ernie, Edo Aqua, Hadasi Selenko, Mr. Che, Mr. Farley, Yat Eko, Isha di Bandit, oh, Wenzaho, or Kiss. These agreements, MOAs, MOUs, IGAs, Tashin, Joe, Obansa, Kiss, Yat Egi, Etakala, Akatet, after 8, at Ohana, Digit, after Pohatan, Nanigit, Adot Abahas, Anigit, after Itan, Ading. Ebe kichik khatope akadajt kot ko akodon nihigishit ko nantato. We're discussing things that have to do with government to government, sovereign governments coming together to address mutual interests, mutual concerns, mutual benefits. Echo kot at no joko net nature Hashinzage beda initial the edo the ishi dil eko snantako Sadoyat which is an hallo Jabahazan Shinkle though isn't the nota ko ishida bahazan the shinju city of the ne I think it's illa nani ado le hajo in but el do le sigi pana ansto ba haya do le sigi edasi la nani kot ko edona kin zeda kot ko din ki ke ya kai hot bandit or ale das so are different jurisdictions that we have, but nonetheless, the people are one. They are our people. Koho kwaigishin bansi kisiko. Or the chairman, the lagi ishin the need into the shiko. Doshin ada nada isnil ado nada hitzi. Akot o jutta isnil ado itchin. Oh, huge, because the time it ako. To bahan now it or she at Hayat Hashina, Naha, but Banda and Yat Hashina, Nahabgi, this Jordanits and Don Haba Hanya. Aya, Nahot, Tapo, Jokoba, when in Nahatri, at the insana excuse, Annie, not dancing Hadatis, Anna. By now, I call Idaho. She get Commissioner Great Eyes had Celine H.O. Quinzago, the Hadina, that not so fun. Yeah, by now, by now, we get now, Jisha call. I call it a name, she's a call what a teacher. Actually, not a Sidney, committee members or chairman. Or Navata Kinsanago, or the Chidin the houses without Adit houses. Adit Heki, not suspect at it, a quite given Yanan, so a team, but they Coconino County, though, Navajo Nation, in Bahaya. I call but again, Vendigator MOU, other question. Baka nanas dile MOA do IGA that egi. As leaders, we have the responsibility of ensuring that we work with other governments in a manner that serves a good purpose for our people. Things addressing matters with mutual interests, mutual benefits. Echo. I don't need and something that promotes and fosters good working relations and doing things in good faith. It ishin fansanade kisoliti or ashigibi or she nahaki yesterday so not the need we ako titi jinda beki sahad negi I kut hegi ado ko Tinanta chairman di hatsi auto way kuchit Apache County, although the other counties, Navajo County, McKinley County, San Juan County, Bernard Sosiki, and nearly all Edo Hayat Echo, because the team has Jean Ashin that what so it let go to Shinda Kitas Eda. Hadat Ego Shinkitas Echo. Ado not one Sunha Kiss of Tanshin Adalia. To only the Indadna. Eben Nashido had Egla Edo to Jean Eliadla. Certain other the Bo Saho Dalia. Or Joe that the net. But has suddenly Lebanon, Nitin Hanha is Lady. Put echo. What all else are the hospital, the chairman, showing Tito Shnant, seasons. Engineer that's then other heat in a cut echo. Kayat Egi Henny Nils and Johnson at Egida. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, for your statement. And I'm the Senegay County Commissioners from San Juan County, Utah, Mr. Mary Boy, and Mr. Gray Eyes, as well as Mr. McDonald and Mr. Adair. Appreciate your time this morning, bringing these concerns to leadership. I don't care, Mr. Silversmith, for getting on the call, as well as Mr. Mahoja, your staff. I believe today we have made some progress as to what we need to do moving forward, which is that we will need a list of recommendations that will be amended on this agreement. And also, we will consider authorizing our executive director, Mr. Silversmith, to go ahead and have the authority to sign off and make the agreement stipulations to some of these agreements without oversight authority being present, just as we do land department in certain areas. Of course, with this, we're hoping to schedule the update follow-up meeting on March 2, if we can approve that once it comes before RDC. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. All your statements are valued, and let's continue to have a better working relationship between states, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Navajo Nation, and divisions and departments. Honorable Daniels, this is what it is partnership, understanding and coordinating and offering recommendations. So today, let's walk away with some good recommendations and tackle these concerns. Thank you all very much, I believe. Are there any other statements, honorable members of RDC? If not, we'll go ahead and adjourn at this time. It is currently 11:45 a.m. Thank you very much. You all be safe, and may God bless each and every one of you and your family.